I'm going to open up with Reading Mastery Signature Edition and just give you a quick overview about the program and also how the Core Connection kits fit in. And of course, because this is a Tech Tuesday, we're going to cover all of the resources that our Core Connection kits provide to the teachers and yourselves in the classrooms. So I'm going to go ahead and begin. With Reading Mastery Signature, you can expect mastery in this program. We have two major strands, and we also include a third strand for literature. The first strand is our reading strand here in the purple cover, and the second strand is our language arts strand in the green cover, and our third strand is here in the literature anthology. And using this program all together, you are completely aligned to meet the Common Core state standards, and we have some new features that I'm going to talk to you about today. So first, I just want to explain a little bit about these three strands. For those of you that are digging into the Common Core state standards, have no fear. Using Reading Mastery Signature will help all of your students get to grade level expectations. And right here in the gray boxes are all of the Common Core anchor standards. And our reading strand of the Signature Edition covers almost all of those anchor strands. So if you're currently using the Reading Mastery program, you are set in the reading strand by meeting the literature standards, our informational text, foundational skills, writing, and of course the language. When you start incorporating your language arts, we're also strengthening more writing, the speaking and listening, and the language again. So using those two strands together makes it an even more powerful program. And of course, in our literature, we're covering a lot of the other anchor standards for the Common Core. And the only piece we're not handling is the foundational skills, and of course, that's in our reading strand. You'll notice here this purple cover, which is the Core Lesson Connections book, and that's what we're going to discuss today, and that's the technology resource that I'm going to show you online. So we're going to go ahead and proceed. In dealing with the Common Core, we have Lexile Ranges that are assigned by grade level. And what the Common Core states is that in levels 2 to 3, you should be at a high Lexile level of 790. Well, in our Reading Mastery program, you will reach up to 1170. And you'll notice that students will be exposed to different levels of text complexity and Lexile ranges. And we're also seeing that in levels 4 to 5. So this is what already exists in our program. It's a great resource for students who might be struggling, and you want to place them into the program at their specific skill level. Or if you're using the program as a core, you know that you're meeting all of our core level expectations. Okay? So I'm going to proceed here and talk about the Common Core Connection Kits, which is why you signed up today. These are new online resources, and there is a print book included. But what we're going to talk about today are the online resources. And what this piece is intended to do is help strengthen vocabulary, writing, and comprehension. We're already doing this in the reading and the language arts strands of our program, but we're just going to strengthen that piece through our core connections. And we've also included To Inform, which is our new online progress monitoring, and I'll show you some screens on that today also. We have individual lessons. These core connection lessons are intended to be taught with the reading lesson. And so if you're already doing your reading lesson, you'll need another 10 to 20 minutes, and you can go ahead and start using the core connection kits. And you'll notice with all the technology, you'll be able to incorporate it pretty seamlessly. Again, we have resource library here, which includes ebooks and correlations. I'll walk you through that. And of course, there's student access with additional organizers in writing for real-time instruction. So I'm going to go ahead and dive in to the ConnectEd system, which is where all of our resources are housed. And you'll notice when I log into ConnectEd, I will see my courses here. And as a teacher, you may subscribe and use some of our other programs. We're going to start with Reading Mastery. Okay? So on your screen, you see the access for all of our online resources for Reading Mastery. And the first thing I'd like you to notice is that we have included with each license access to all levels of the program. And the reason we do that, of course, is for those of you that are working with special education students or students perhaps in a Tier 3 setting, you might have different groups of students. You might have students at the K level and the 1 level. So we went ahead and added all of the resources in through one access point. And what I'd like to do now is just show you some of the resources we have in the program. All here are your grade levels, and then also down at the bottom we have our resource library and the To-Inform online progress monitoring. So for today, I'd like to walk you through resources in the Level K program, in the Level 2 program, and in the Level 3 program. So I'm going to go ahead and click here on Level K, and as this is loading, you'll notice on the left-hand side that we've organized all of the resources by lesson number. And like I mentioned earlier, when you're using core resource connections for reading mastery, you are doing this during the same time as your reading lessons. So when I'm conducting my reading lesson 96, I'm also conducting my core lesson connection 96. And all of the resources you need for that day are here on your screen. You see we have some student material. I'll walk you through that. We also have our teacher material here. This is a PDF of the current lesson you would be working on today. This is my lesson 96, and you can see we're working with sounds in exercise 1. I also have my spelling lesson here because we know that is embedded in the Reading Mastery reading strand of the program. So we have this instruction here. This is not intended to be taught from this screen. These are simply resources to help you with planning or to practice the script before conducting the lesson. And here is my core lesson connection. And I just want to show you an example of what this looks like. I'm again in lesson 96. That corresponds to my reading lesson. I have all of the materials I'm going to need today. And I also know that I'm going to be working with an interactive whiteboard activity. So in this particular activity, we're working with phoneme isolation. We're going to pull up our picture sound cards on our interactive whiteboard, and we're going to run through some of this script. And I'm going to show that to you now. So in this particular lesson 96, the instruction asks me to choose any of these picture sound cards, and basically I can pick this and drag over. One thing I want to tell you, this does work on an interactive whiteboard. If you don't have an interactive whiteboard like today, I'm just using my PC, my laptop, I can go ahead and click and drag. And I have all of my traditional tools here to help highlight, make notes, zoom in, etc. So you don't have to have the interactive whiteboard to use these resources. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up these 2 photos. And I'm basically going to ask the students, what is this? This is the sandwich. What's the ending sound? Which is ch. And then here I have a sauce. The ending sound is k. So that's not the complete lesson, but just to give you an idea, you can have students come up and manipulate the technology. The teacher can be doing this whole class, and you'll be using your book to help follow the script, as with any other direct instruction program. So these are just some examples. What students also have are writing activities, and I think you heard me say this is level K, and the new Common Core State Standards do dictate that more writing should be happening at the level K for students. And so what we're doing here is starting some early writing activities. This is lesson 96, and students can write into this prediction chart. I'm in the interactive whiteboard portion, so as a teacher, I can go ahead and write on this board. I can highlight and basically model this activity for our students. And what I'm going to do is click here, and what you'll see, the students also have this resource. Students have online access to the core connections. They can do this at home. They can do this with a small group in a separate time. And the thing I want to point out to you here, what's really great, is I can go ahead and key in some content here. I can save this PDF interactively. I can print it out, and I can I can work in portions of this I can work in portions of this interactive whiteboard lesson at different parts during the week. So depending on where we are in the lesson, today I might only be working on book title. So then I'm able to save, and as a student I can come back when the teacher tells me to, and the lesson dictates, and I can fill out the rest of my sheet here. We know that we break this down for students. So that's just an example of what we have. And again, as you notice, this is the writing portion to help build some of that comprehension for our students and enhance what we're already doing in our core instruction. That's level K. I'd like to show you an example from level 2. And while I'm doing that, if anyone has any questions, just a reminder, you can go ahead and key that into the question box. I don't see any as of yet, so I'll just keep presenting here to you. And we're going to look at level 2. And so all the levels are set up the same way. All of our lessons are on the left-hand side, as I mentioned earlier, and all of the resources that I need to use for that day are at point of use. So I'm actually showing lesson 96 in level 2. And just another example, I'm just showing you through, walking you through how students will expand on their writing. This can be used during my instruction. Here we're working on cause and effect, which is a huge standard in the Common Core. As we all know, we've been doing that. And the narrative story map. So again, as a student, I can pull this resource up, save, print, and work on it at home if I need to. Okay, so these are some added resources that we have. And lastly here, I'm going to show you level 4. And in level 4, it's a bit similar. And in level 4, the difference we're doing here is we're actually making connections to the text. So for this particular comprehension activity, which is in lesson 12, I'm going to make connections to my text. And I think most of you know, if you're digging into these Common Core state standards, this is really key for students. They have to be able to show evidence in the text that they're reading, and they have to be able to write about it. So we're doing that here in this lesson. And I just want to show you the student view. Now in this particular lesson, in this resource, what we're telling students to do here is to make connections when you use your personal experiences to help you understand what you read. And so we're starting to work here in this Venn diagram on comparing and contrasting with the story as guided. And of course, with any direct instruction, we go ahead and we model this for the students before they start practicing, and then of course doing the independent work on their own at a point in time that's appropriate. One thing I want to mention about these core lesson connections, they are sometimes used to pre-teach a lesson, the reading lesson. They are sometimes used during the reading lesson to help reinforce a skill or concept. And at other times they're used to wrap up a lesson. So depending on where you are in the core lesson connections, you're using these resources at any point during the lesson. And I hope it makes it a little dynamic for the students. They practice using technology and writing, and of course they can be working on these activities at home. So there's a quick preview of what some of the resources are. I'd also like to show you the resource library. And I'm going to open that up now. In addition to this enhancement offer, we do list all of our ebooks here. And so all of your teacher presentation books are listed. This is, again, is for planning purposes, so you don't have to lug those books home. We have our reading language arts strand. We have all of our spelling lessons like you saw earlier. And these ebooks are just downloadable into a page reader, and you can preview any lesson through the table of contents. I can also look at this page by page or together. I can zoom in, I can highlight, etc. So if you do have an interactive whiteboard, you could preview this after school, or if you're having a teacher meeting to go over a lesson and do a booster session, it's a great tool to use for that purpose as well. Okay? I also have my answer keys here, and I think everyone can see this screen on the left-hand side with all the resources. We also have teaching tutors. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but we do offer teaching tutors with the program. And the teaching tutors are our professional development. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to hear this. And in this particular teaching tutor, I could look at something like placement tests, what is an error, and I can view this presentation. Okay, so those are all there for you at point of use at any time. If you need a refresher, if perhaps you have a new teacher who went through implementation training but might just need some additional support, it's all here for you. We also have the To-Inform online progress monitoring, which I'll talk about in a little bit, and of course additional resources. Now this is the bread and butter sometimes of things that you're always looking for or an administrator might ask for. You have correlations here for all the levels again. Our core lesson connection ebook is here. Our teacher guides for reference and training. Same thing with the literature guide. A user's guide, of course, because we can't all remember where these items and these resources are housed, so we provide a user's guide for everyone. And these last three resources are coming soon. We currently have these in process. There will be an e-inquiry for students to work collaboratively in pairs or in teams on long-term projects. We also have research projects, which as you know is very pertinent in the Common Core. We need to be able to research and write and present about what we are researching. And practice and review activities. We currently have practice and review activities on disk. Some of you might be using those. We are migrating those to an online resource, and those will be done before the end of the year. So as we continue to get updates, I'll be communicating this directly out to those of you who have attended this webinar and let you know when they go live. Okay? So before we go to To-Inform, I just want to switch gears a little bit to corrective reading. Those are the resources we just viewed for reading mastery. And again, I can refresh our memory here. We're using these resources to help enhance our vocabulary, writing, and comprehension. And like I just showed you, we have Teacher and Student Access 24/7 from home. This is all web-based. We have our lessons that correspond to our reading lesson and take another 10 to 20 minutes. And we have our resource library and our student access where we can save, print, and work on organizers for our writing skills. Okay, so that's the reading mastery. And I'm going to switch gears here to corrective reading and just give you a heads up on corrective reading. I want to pause here for just a minute and let you type in any questions you might have about the reading mastery core lesson connections or any of the resources you saw. Again, we will cover To-Inform here at the end of this presentation. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and continue on with corrective reading. And I see there's a question here. Yolanda's hand is raised. And I'm unable to mute you during this, Yolanda. If you'd like to go ahead and type in your question, I can answer it here in a few minutes. Okay. So with corrective reading is our other intervention solution. If you're not familiar with the corrective reading program, this is for students who might be 2 or more years behind in reading. These are students who might be in the upper elementary grades, middle school, or high school. So this program works for kids in grades 4 through 12. And what we'd like to do here is just firm up their decoding skills, their comprehension and writing, and to make sure that they're back on the right track to be successful with grade level materials. So there is a comprehension and decoding strand in corrective reading if you're not familiar with the program. And again, we have added the core connection kit to this program as well. I just want to highlight real briefly, much like I did with Reading Mastery, the Lexile levels that we cover in the program. And right here in the left-hand side, you're going to see this says Lexile 630 at Lesson 20. We do have students who could be severely behind in reading, and they might be starting at a low Lexile level, and they could be middle school or high school students. This level starts really, we cover Lexile 630 at the end of B2 at Lesson 20, and by level C in decoding, we're up to Lexile 1050. So in a very short time period, and this could be about over a year to year and a half time, depending on how often you're using the lessons. We're going from a 630 Lexile to a 1050 Lexile, and you can see here we're jumping multiple grade levels. So this is a powerful program, and the online resources that I'm going to share with you are going to help you with the instruction and planning to go ahead and accelerate these students as quickly as we can. So that's just a heads up highlight for you. So like I just mentioned, the core resource connections are part of Corrective Reading, and we also have our To-Inform online progress monitoring. The core resource connections are intended to do the same thing as Reading Mastery. We have to strengthen that writing piece for students. We have to make sure we give them the vocabulary background they need, and of course we know all of this ties into better comprehension. So we're doing that with these resources here. I will mention this is a little bit different from the Reading Mastery. The core resource connections in Corrective Reading are used every fifth lesson. And so they're not as stringent or integrated into the Corrective Reading decoding program, but they are just as vital. And I'm going to go ahead and take you back to the online resource and show you here. Some Corrective Reading. So as I just mentioned, this is for decoding, and you'll notice again we have all the levels here for teachers. We know that some of our teachers might have multiple groups or have students who come and go in and out of groups, so we've given you the resources here with one online subscription. And I'd like to just walk you through very briefly levels B1 and B2 examples, and these are set up similarly to the Reading Mastery, where you'll see your lessons on the left-hand side. So you see here I have all my lessons. I also know when my mastery tests are given. And in B1, I'd like to look at lesson 50. And you'll see here it's set up in a similar manner. As with Reading Mastery, we have our teacher presentation book. This is the instruction I'm working on here with word attack skills. And again, it's for planning purposes, this page here. And also I have interactive whiteboard activities. Now again, in Corrective Reading it's a little bit different. These are resources for teachers. So when a teacher finds, deems it necessary to pull in some additional passage reading, to work on some comprehension skills, or pull up some resources and work in a comparison table. In this example, we want to do some writing or descriptive writing experience here. We can do that about every fifth lesson in our program, and the students will have enough skill set to be successful with these activities. This can be modeled first, then of course practice with the students, and obviously turning it over to independent work for them when they're ready. So in this particular example, the students are working on word attack skills. And again, this is just another resource for them. Here we're doing consonant conversions, word reading, and we want to pull in some of this writing. So we want to make sure that they're not just working whole group here, but we're also pulling in writing. Okay, so we're answering orally questions, and we're also going to be answering questions in writing. So that's B1 resources. And now I'd like to show you the resources in B2, and they're going to be very similar. Again, not as stringent or integrated as we saw in Reading Mastery. These are older students. We know that they might need extra practice with some of these activities, and so we're providing them at every fifth lesson. Again, here as a teacher, I can go ahead and read this, model it for the students with prosody. We can work through our comprehension activities. And of course, there are other student activities here at the end. We start doing some research, some writing about commercials, and of course, we have some other interactive whiteboard activities. In this particular lesson, you do see an interactive whiteboard activity. And after we finish our lesson, we can go ahead and add the correct end punctuation to each sentence. You could have students come up and do this. They could discuss it, and I can just drag and drop. Add the correct end punctuation to this sentence. I like fruit for lunch. That would be a question mark for me because I don't think I really like fruit for lunch. Okay, so these are interactive whiteboard activities. And those are the resources that you have at point of use in each lesson for corrective reading decoding. Much like the Reading Mastery, we have a resource library. Here you will find your ebooks, again, for planning purposes. I can pull up my ebook. I can use my table of contents and go to any lesson that I'd like to review. And I can zoom in. As with our teacher presentation books, the student work is included, and of course the answers are there as well. Okay? I don't see any questions popping up, so I'm going to keep on going. We have the teaching tutors here. And again, as a refresher, after perhaps you've had training or you've had a coach in helping you with your implementation, you can go to the teaching tutor for additional resources here. There are 8 chapters in this particular one. And you can notice here we help guidelines for saying sounds correctly, practicing sounds. In this particular chapter 6, we have an introduction to decoding B1 and B2, what happens in a typical lesson with examples on that. And I can go ahead and just show you guys what this looks like. This is an example of a professional development video for reading checkouts. So if you're a little rusty on those, or if someone is doing them for you and you have a substitute in there, it's great to share that information with them. Okay? To inform, we'll go over that next. And again, additional resources, correlations, ebooks. We have our guides here, and our e-inquiry will be added again at a later date. The student resources are all in one place as well. So when students log in, they will see all of these additional activities. And again, we saw these every 5th lesson as resources, but you teachers, you can pull this out at any time you deem necessary to help reinforce. In this particular example, this would be cause and effect. We also have our writing frames here. If I want to be working on a persuasive writing poster, I have my resources here. Okay? And for the students, we can save, we can print, we can email this. It can be done at home as well. Okay? We're adding practice activities. For corrective reading customers, there are practice and review activities already on disk. And much like Reading Mastery, we're going to go ahead and migrate these resources to this online suite. So when you purchase, you will get access to all of those resources as well. Now, for the fun part, this is our last piece, the to inform. And I'm going to go ahead. This is included with the purchase of the core connection kits. And you have teacher access. So the best thing about the to inform online progress monitoring is that these take all of our in-program assessments and we've put them online for you. So any of the mastery tests that you're conducting, our curriculum-based assessments, our fluency assessments, etc., are all available here. You'll notice I just clicked on To Inform, and look, I have all of these additional programs here that are also on the To Inform platform. So if I'm teaching Reading Mastery, I might also be teaching Connecting Math Concepts, and I can get to all of my data and all of my student information in one quick place. So I'd like to show you some information about Reading Mastery. And again, this is our in-program assessment. It's very easy for us to import students, to add new students, and build my groups as a teacher. I might have multiple groups at multiple levels. and we've enabled you to be able to create those groups pretty easily. You can add a new group here, you can rename groups, and you can move students in between groups when deemed necessary, whether they're moving back in the program at a new lesson and need to be shared with another group, or perhaps the student has completed a level and now they're accelerated and they're going into their next level. I can move them at any time. The data entry point is a really powerful piece. We know that with our direct instruction programs, the data drives instruction, and we use that data to help inform what students have mastered and what maybe needs taught again. And we do that really well in our programs. The best part about this online piece is that now you don't have to worry about adding up all of those corrections, answers correctly, and what the percentages are. Our system does that for you. So in this particular example, I'm looking at a level K group of students, and all of my mastery tests are listed here. All of my fluency checks are at the top, my curriculum-based assessments, and my daily lesson. So I'm just going to walk you through really briefly how this works. When I am putting in my mastery test data for my students, I'm going to show you one with a couple questions here. In level K, there's just some simple parts. I can go ahead and answer that part for the student, and my points earned is here, my possible points, and my pricing criteria are always listed. We know that sometimes students might retake these. We can enter a new attempt, we can always edit this, and we can set the information. Okay? And then also my fluency checks are here. So I know Martha, at this point in time, she had 2 errors. She read it in 150 seconds. You can key this in as seconds or minutes. And then I know instantly what my word per minute ratio is. This is all of the data entry piece. And of course, we know that the reports that you get from the data are as good as the data you input here. So we always want to make sure that we're inputting our data. One piece I wanted to make sure you understand is in our mastery test, we know that students who don't pass the mastery test, we offer remedies for them. And our system now offers group remedies as well as individual remedies. And this is just a direction for the teacher to go back to a certain part in a lesson and activity to reteach some of that information before the student takes their mastery test again. So we are adding that in here with this little wrench tool you see where I might have some group remedies needed. And it's a great planning piece and an organizational piece for my groups of students. The CBAs work the same way. I might have which are parts correct, plus points earned, possible points, and pricing criteria. Okay? And then the daily lesson check. We know that we have to accelerate a lot of these students who are using our Reading Mastery program as an intervention. And for those students who are really accelerating and they're on grade level, they might be in a Reading Mastery level above their grade, which is fabulous. And we can track all of this information very quickly. We know what lesson we have completed. We know if it's an instruction day, a test day, a remediation day. And then I can go ahead and mark all my students present or absent. And you'll see in the reports why this is powerful. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead to the reports. Still no questions, so I hope you guys are all still with me here. And this is our powerful piece. Obviously the reports, they're for not only teachers, they're for parents, and they're for, of course, our administrators to make sure that we're making adequate progress with these groups of students. Very briefly, I'm going to show you a few of the reports. On the left-hand side here are all of our reports that are available. All of these reports are consistent with every program that you saw on the screen. So for example, Corrective Reading also has to inform, so they will see a lot of the similar reports. I'm going to show you the Reading Mastery today, but if you're using Connecting Math Concepts for your elementary students, you will see similar reports. Of course, they won't have fluency in math, but we understand why there. Okay, so very briefly, group summary. In this particular example, I can see how many sessions I have been using the program, how many lessons I've completed, and my student attendance rate and their independent work average. Okay, so very quick, high level. On my curriculum-based assessments, I can see very quickly at a glance what percentage of my group is passing. This is a stellar group here. They're at 100%. And what my remedy line is at 75. And I see here that I don't have any remedies happening for this particular CBA. In lesson 40, we ran into some trouble here. Only 67% of my group was passing, and 33 or 2 of my students needed remedies. So we went ahead and conducted those remedies. Group summaries. Again, here in that particular lesson 40, we know that some of my students passed, but we had the 2 that did not pass, and that a group remedy was needed. So this is just a high-level snapshot. And of course, when you go to the remedies, you'll see that I needed a group remedy again. So these are just different ways to pull the information. For those of you who are really interested in the parts that are pass-fail in a lot of our mastery tests, we know our mastery tests have multiple parts, and there are different remedies for different parts. So it's very key. This particular level of level K, we know there's only one question. So we're going to see that the students either passed it or did not pass it. Okay? And then our mastery test, we have group summary here. Sorry, I skipped over that. And then our mastery test trend. This is a great report to share with administrators, or if you're having your data meetings, this is some great reporting that you can share with your other colleagues and how your group is doing with mastery. If we have a student who ends up falling behind too much, we know that we might need to assess what's going on there with the instruction. And so here we have high level, who's green and who's passing. We have our target threshold. And then also we know by mastery test in a whole class level where we reside. The group fluency progress by test, in this particular example, we're at level K, so I don't have the data in there quite yet. And then our daily lesson progress. You saw that we entered daily lesson progress, and now we can see our pie chart. For administrators, this could be very important for you, and for teachers, this is showing that you're working really hard and you are making adequate progress with every lesson. So here you notice I just entered today a remediation day, and that's why a piece of my pie is red. We didn't have instruction there, we did remediation. Now the piece I like most is actually the individual reports, and I like this piece because you can share it with teachers and parents. The biggest piece here is I'm providing a snapshot. I have independent work on my student Daniel here, his mastery test, his pass-fail by part here, his fluency rates, and his curriculum-based assessments. I can run this report at any time, so I can run it monthly, I can run it biannually, I can run it at the end of the year just to see where they finished up. And when I click full report here, he has had 100% attendance, which I know by this circle chart right away. The important part is up here at the top, who he is, what course he's in, the dates he's been in this course, the number of lessons that have been completed, and his attendance rate and independent average work. So this is a great piece you can print and share with parents, and of course bring to data meetings as well. Independent work is shown here. Our fluency progress, I didn't have any yet in this particular level at this lesson progress piece. And then also the mastery test progress. So I know that Daniel has been performing very well on his mastery test. He's only struggled here at mastery test 3, but he did still meet the threshold. He scored 88% in that particular mastery test. Okay? So this is our powerful data reporting. And that's what I have for To Inform today. I just want to reiterate with you, the reports do help us inform the instruction. We can remedy much faster with our students. We can show progress. And of course, we want our administrators to understand that we're working really hard with these students, and they are indeed learning. As a wrap-up, To Inform is included with the Core Connection Kit that we discussed earlier with those resources, and you have access to all of the programs. So again, if I'm a teacher using Reading Mastery and Connecting Math Concepts, I have the data for both programs. So that covers Core Connection Kits. And I see a question here, which is good timing because that's all of the resources I'm going to show you today, and now we're going to handle the questions. Rebecca has a question. Is the To-Inform only available through the Connections Kit? Rebecca, no. You can actually purchase To-Inform separately. A one-year subscription is $59.70. It's $59.70 per teacher for 1 year. If you wanted to buy a 6-year license, it's $297 per teacher. So that goes down to about $50 a year for the data management. And again, there's a user's guide here, and it's pretty quick and easy and intuitive to understand. Okay? Thanks for asking a question, Rebecca. And I'll wait here for another minute. Any other questions you'd like to type in to this section? And I'll switch a slide here very briefly. I just wanted to provide all of you with the login to a demo that has all of our core resource connections. So if some of it was a little too quick for you today, we did record it and we'll be sending that out with you. And also the demo is listed here on the slide. You can log on to connected.mcgraw-hill.com. This is the username and the password. And what we've done there is we've actually included lots of our DI programs and some of the resources that we have available. So you might see a level 2 with a sample lesson, and you can see some resources like what I showed you today. And I have some other questions here. Is Reading Mastery Classic obsolete? That's a loaded question. Classic is not obsolete. We still have a lot of customers using Classic. What I will say about the Classic edition is that it's going to cover all of your reading instruction. Classic does not cover your language arts and enough of your writing. It really doesn't have enough writing at all. So the Signature Edition is really where you're going to meet a lot of those Common Core state standards, if indeed that's where you guys are headed with your students in the next year. But it's not obsolete, and there's no technology there and no progress monitoring. So you know, if you find a need to meet the standards, if you have a need to collect the data and show the reports to administrators and parents, I do think that you might want to consider looking at a Signature Edition, and Rebecca, I can follow up with you on some additional information on that. Okay, and now Pam has a question. What were color codes on mastery test pages? Well, that was an obvious question, and I'm sorry I didn't explain that to you. So, Pam, good question. I'm going to go back in real quick here to To-Inform. I'm sorry I skipped over that. Just a minute here. I'm going to reload it. I'm actually going to go through Reading Mastery. The color codes simply say if the student passed it on the first attempt, if perhaps they did not meet mastery would be the yellow, if they failed the test would be red, and then of course we have another color for when they've been retested. And because I want to show you this, my website needs to reload here. So Pam, I'll click onto that. I'm going to go to the next question while this is loading here. I got to get this reloaded. I'm going to log out. So the next question is it safe to assume that a connections kit will not be made for Reading Mastery Classic? Yes, Rebecca. We're not upgrading the Classic materials to meet the Common Core. The program, again, like I said, just handles reading. So if the reading is sufficient enough for your students at this point in time, you can continue with their Classic. But if you need to put in a little more language arts and writing, you really want to consider the Signature Edition. The Classic has worked for many years for many people, and there's no reason why you couldn't use it. Okay, Pam, I'm having an issue with my tech. I will follow up with you on those color codes because I'm unable to log in. I might be able to pull it here from my PDF. But like I mentioned, you're going to know at a quick view who has passed the test, who has failed the test, and who needs to retake the test. So if you just hold on one moment, let me scroll through here. I'm pretty sure we explain it in our user guide. So sorry this is going quickly on your screen. Just hang on a minute. Okay, this doesn't have any graphs on here, but Pam, I hope you can read at the bottom. Let me zoom in here a little bit. On this PDF. Whoops, hang on one second. At the bottom, green means I passed on my first attempt. You can read here, I passed on my subsequent attempt. So what that yellow means that I had to retake the test. I also read for failed, and the orange is failed, may attempts failed parts again. So the orange kids, we want to make sure we keep an eye on if they have not passed. And the white is incomplete, of course. We haven't got to that mastery test yet. So I hope that answers your question. Okay, any other questions? All right, well, I want to thank you all for joining us today. And again, I'm Lindsay Root, and I'm the marketing manager here at McGraw-Hill Education. I love working with these programs, and I really appreciate your time today. I hope you learned something. And you can join us next Tuesday. We have another Tech Tuesday happening with early interventions in reading, and that's a great Tier 2 product for students who might just need some additional support in their foundational literacy skills. So early interventions in reading next Tuesday. You can go to edx.mcgrawhill.com to register. So thanks all. Have a great day.